Hey, we are Dr. Shane and Liz Watt, and welcome to the Be Healthy Naturally podcast.
We are doing this podcast because we are trying to bring knowledge and education to create a new way of thinking about our health.
Knowledge is the key to live a happy, healthy life, and our goal is to help you live your best life.
Thank you for being on this journey with us, and we hope you enjoy this episode. Mike Fisher is the owner of Vital Home Solutions in Utah, specializing in health-focused mold inspection and remediation. With rigorous health-related certifications and mold detection dogs named Chap and Ren, he helps families identify hidden toxins making them sick, a leading mold and toxin cleanup. Mike turns water damage and mold issues into opportunities for better indoor health and wellness. We'd like to welcome Mike Fisher to the podcast.
So, this morning we were sitting there talking about who was going to be on the podcast today. And I was like, you're going to be really excited about who we have on the very first person, because, who doesn't like to talk about, dogs and how they actually help us so much in our life, which they help you in your profession. You want to kind of tell us a little bit about what you do and a little bit about your two dogs that you have, your Chap and Ren.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are mold and toxin assessors and remediators. And we know that so many health things can be triggered by an environmental issue. So we, years ago, we worked behind a dog that was in Utah back in like 2016, 2012-ish. And when that dog retired, we went out and looked for our own dogs, and it took a few years to find the right dogs. And so we've had Chap. He's going on almost 8 years old, so he's been doing this 5.5, almost 6 years, and he is amazing and has been trained to find hidden mold behind walls. So, don't picture us looking at, going in a basement in a utility room and seeing visible mold. We're not sending the dogs in on that. The dogs, what they are trained to do is find mold that's behind walls. And so
do you do the training, or are these dogs raised in a specific spot and they're trained by a certified company somewhere else, and then you purchase the dogs? How does that work?
That's a great question. So Chap was a personal dog of mine. I bought him for that purpose. He and raised him as a puppy till he was 2 years old to do mold detection. And then at 2 years old, we sent him to what we call college. And he went out to a place in Kansas City, or outside of Kansas City, and was trained and imprinted on mold. And then brought him back, and he's been working since, and he's awesome. And then Ren was a puppy that I think was born in Georgia and at a hunting club. And then so a little black lab, just adorable little thing. And she was trained, she was bred to be a hunting dog. And then a group out of Iowa picked her up that they do detection dogs. So they buy detection dogs at the earliest age they can, which is about 8 to 10 weeks. And then they take them to their facility and just start training them on detection related things. And so they don't imprint them on an odor. They just raise them, and then as they get older, they sell them for more. And so we bought her at 7 months, 8 months old, and then took her to a different facility in Oregon, who trained her for about 6-7 months. And then we went through a handler school. So Noah, my son, runs Ren, and I run Chap. And so we went through their intensive handler school to learn how to read a dog and how to handle a dog. So pretty awesome. The dogs are super amazing. What the difference between us, because there's plenty of mold dogs in Utah, and all brand new, like within the last year or two, and outside of Chap, who's been around for 5. And the big difference we have between our dogs and theirs or our inspections is, we are certified mold assessors. We were mold assessors for decades before we brought on the tool of a dog. And so having the tool, the dog as a tool, is amazing. And they do a great job, but we're not just coming in, having the dog run through it, and then saying, hey, now hire a mold assessor to find mold and toxins. So we go in as mold assessors first. We walk through the house, we check out everything, and we will find mold and toxins that the dogs don't, and then the dogs will find hidden mold that we may not. And so that's not all the time, but 9 times out of 10, the dogs are finding something that maybe we missed or would have missed, or we're just kind of suspect. We're like, wonder what that is, and they confirm it, and then we can come in and test for more.
So you're a testing company only, or do you actually go in and actually get rid of it as well?
Yeah, so we are amazing at finding mold, and then we are amazing at remediating mold. So we remediate mold to a standard of medical cleanliness. It's called medically necessary remediation. I shouldn't say medically cleanliness, but because that's like, that's perfect. There's no outside of a clean room that's perfect, but it's medically necessary remediation that we're certified in, and sensitive and remediation for sensitized individuals. And so we have 2 different divisions. One is our inspection side, and then one is our remediation side. So we find mold in a really incredible way, better than anyone in Utah, and then we remediate mold better than anyone in Utah. We don't test our own work, so we can do plenty of testing. We can test for a whole slew of things that we can talk about later, but we don't test our own work. So we don't come in and say, yeah, we've here's the mold, we remediated it, yep, we took care of it. That's not our MO. We come in, we find it, we remediate it. You hire a third party to tell you that we did a good job and to verify. It's called a PRV, a post-remediation verification. And then we don't put anything back either. We used to, but we see that as even more of a conflict of interest. You know, we always see people saying, you know, like back in the day when we did it, people could come into the house and say, hey, Mom, they're telling you to tear out ... because they want to have a new tile shower job, a new wood floor job, a new whatever. There's just no motivation to do that. So so we remediate, we find mold and remediate mold. We don't test our own work and we don't put it back.
So when we talk about mold within the natural health realm, this is huge because it can cause a lot of disease and illness within people that they don't even realize that this is the start, that actually their autoimmunes could have started from having a mold exposure. Can you kind of talk to us about what you have seen, how mold affects people's health?
Yeah, I can talk to you about how we see our clients, that, you know, what they have. Knowing that it's 100% mold, I don't know that, right? And there's more things that get, I'll say there are more things that ail us than mold. There's a test out there called the Genie test. I'm not saying you should get it. It's a test you take on your body. But what it tells you is, it tells you, okay, if this is 100% of the toxins that are wrecking your house or your body that are inside your house, like home-related toxins, 8% of it is mold. 42% of it is actinomycetes, or gram-positive bacteria that grow in the same places that mold grows. It's just everybody talks about mold, right? But 42% of what's bothering people, and actinomycetes grows on our skin, right? And so we need that bacteria. We need bacteria on our skin. Mycetes is a gram-positive bacteria that's filamentous, so can often even look a little bit similar. People can mistake it for mold. Also have it and not ever see it. And so that's one. And then there's also endotoxins. Endotoxins, it also is another much bigger, I think it's 24%. Well, I mean, if we're only talking, and then the rest is like gram-negative bacteria and other toxins. But of the 100%, only a little bit of it is always, you know, I shouldn't say always, is mold. But there's these other bacteria we want to be able to take care of and pay attention to. So we
now are your dogs trained for that as well, or is it just the mold?
Imprinted on actinos, not on endos. Endos is feces related. So picture like a drain line that, have you ever had like an unfinished you know, laundry room or an area that they have for a kitchen, and they have a P trap in the wall, and something comes, let's say that, you know, that dries out, and then you smell that sewer gas. That's endotoxin. That's often endotoxin. Pets can bring it in, babies, kids, you know, with diapers and stuff, that's going to bring in endotoxins, but often it's from our sewer gases. And so we don't test, the dogs aren't imprinted on that. That would be, that we'd get too many false indications on things that are going to smell like that, drain lines, things like that, that we don't want to imprint the dogs on. But yeah, so it's so we see a lot of people that have kids with pots or pans. We have kids that get in with these ticks, and they have they get these they get OCD, they get mold rage. And I had the other day, I had a client say, "Hey, does mold cause your kid to like hate me?" Like, like, and I mean, she said, I mean, out of nowhere, they're flipping me off, they're doing this and that. And I'm like, I don't know that that's related, but she was convinced it was mold that was doing that. So it's kind of funny. I'm like,
Yeah.
I think that's teenagers, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had our share
Maybe
of
we
that,
should
right?
get our house detected for mold. So can you kind of,
Let me just say something about that. Often, I mean, you're not going to find a house that has zero mold, right? There's going to be mold that's going to be in your house. A clean room's the only place you're going to have that's going to be zero mold or zero bacteria. And so trying to chase down the impossible is not something we believe people should do. You just have to have it to a level that your body isn't reacting to it. Most houses grow mold. If you have those slider windows that slide back and forth right and left, those things have a track in it. Mold grows behind those, I'd say 9 times out of 10. If they're a year, 2 years old, you're going to likely have mold there, especially
Because that's where the kind of the water sets and it kind of, right?
yeah, what people don't understand is a window itself is made, if it slides like this, right, one slides behind the other, it is made so water hits that window, drops down, drops into a trough like the track, and then it has 2 weep holes at the bottom, and so it's supposed to weep out. Well, there's a track on top of it, so that kind of gets gunky and dirty, and so picture mold being with dust, right? So mold is in the environment. So you have mold is in there and dust is in there, and dust is food for mold. So now all we need is water and time. You have mold that's sitting there with food. It needs water to grow, and then you just need time to do it. And so in those window tracks, you're going to get dust in there from outside, and from everywhere, right? And then you get that water in there, and then just over time, you're going to have mold in there. Well, when we come out and we show that our inspection kind of looks like this. We go through as assessors first and walk through the house. So we have meters, we have thermal imaging, we have smoke pens, we have all the things that we need if we run into a situation where like, what's this? And then we run the dogs, and then we come back together and say, okay, this mold or this house, this is 100% of what we think is in your house, right? What we can find. This is 100% of what we can find in your house right now. And these pieces right here are all what we call low-hanging fruit. It's just the easy stuff, where houses grow mold. Toilet tanks, go take your toilet tank off and look in there, and I think you'll be surprised. Most toilet tanks have mold in it. Super easy to clean, and we give you videos showing you how to reduce all that, those what we call low-hanging fruit. And so like same thing, videos to show you how to clean the windows and how to remove the actual window, remove the track, clean that up, and what you clean it with. And really, when it comes to mold or toxins in someone who's sensitive, we don't use any chemicals. We're not relying on a chemical to kill mold, because we don't believe that it matters if mold is alive or dead, or viable or non-viable. There's all these companies that say, hey, we'll come in and fog your house and we'll get rid of all the mold. Well, that fogging of the house is not getting rid of the mold. It's making it non-viable. You have a spore that can grow viable. You have a spore that can't grow. It doesn't matter. The body itself is a toxin. So it doesn't matter if it's alive or dead. You just have to get rid of it. So when we come in and remediate, and when we teach people how to remediate and how to reduce that mold in their house, it is soap and water. It's like branch basics or 7th generation. It's something clean and clear and water. And so sometimes alcohol, sometimes hypochlorous acid to kill the bacteria that may be growing in that same spot. So.
I never even thought about the mold being in the window wells, because then during the summer you open up your windows and then you have those spores that kind of release, right? And so the air that's coming in is going throughout your whole house.
It's pulling those spores in. You know, what people don't understand is that when that water gets caught in that track, every time mold has started a colony and it gets wet, it grows spores, right? If it has enough time and it has enough water, it grows spores. When it dries, it releases the spore. Picture a spore being held on by a little stem, right? And so this stem becomes really brittle when it dries, and now that breaks off and goes airborne. So every time it rains and it starts to grow some, and then it dries, now that's all super brittle, and then that can go airborne. Just even with someone walking by, just with air movement pushing that off and releasing those. So then open the window, and now you've got this whole thing just pushing those spores right in. But it's a super easy thing to clean. It makes a difference, especially if it's pretty bad. I could show you pictures of ugly and stuff, but it's not everyone's is as bad. But I mean, it's like if you can reduce your toxic load in your house by just a bit, by just cleaning your window tracks out, that's a no-brainer.
But they're such a pain. They are quite a pain to clean. I mean, we've done, it's like, man, they just don't, yeah, it's hard.
So,
Yeah,
Mike,
Well, it's a pain because you're not taking the track out. So to take the track out, you just move the window, lift it up. You have to open the window far enough, lift it up, and you pull that window out. Then you pull the track out, and now it's super easy.
So, Mike, you are here in Utah, but there's a lot of people that listen to us that's outside of Utah. How can I determine what kind of mold company they can use, and what are the benefits that you do that they can look for in other companies out there?
Oh, that's an awesome question. So here's the litmus test that they can use, and that is if someone is adding something to mold to get rid of it, it's wrong. Fog, ozone, if they're adding chemicals, if they're saying, I'm going to spray it with this, I'm going to do something where you're adding something to it, it's wrong. It's all about removal. So if you're hiring a remediation team, what their protocol should look like, I'm setting up an amazing containment, so plastic walls, everything's set up, and I'm going to have negative pressure inside that containment blowing out. Not blowing into your house like with a HEPA, blowing out. HEPA only stops 3 microns, and mold spores and fragments can be smaller than 3 microns. And so can mycotoxins, a product made by mold, right? And so we want that going outside. It can be going through a HEPA and then going outside. We just want to have that be outside. And we want that area that they've contained off to have a negative pressure, meaning it's sucking into it. And it's a different pressure than the room that it's inside of. Does that make sense? Because we want that air to be coming into that room and then out. And then that air is not able to leave that room. Because once you disturb mold, here's something pretty interesting. You've seen those little Petri dishes that you can buy on at Home Depot or something to grow mold on to see if you have mold. They make these little Petri dishes. Well, you can have a square inch of area, and that square inch can have 100,000 spores and not be visible yet. So we're not, it doesn't take a lot to have a ton of mold, right? And so what we need someone to do is have confidence in the fact that they're not going in there to paint anything. They're not painting your studs afterwards. They're not painting anything that's left. They're in there with confidence that they're going to clean with soap and water first. Like that's what's going to happen. If they have to kill bacteria and use like alcohol, or I don't mind hypochlorous acid. I like hypochlorous acid. Hypochlorous acid, it sounds pretty intimidating, but you guys probably know, if you Googled or put hypochlorous acid on like Amazon, all the first things that come up are all like eczema treatments. So it's safe, and it's great. It's great. It's not going to hurt you, but it does kill bacteria really well. And again, we don't care if you kill mold or not, viable or not viable, if you can grow or not, doesn't matter to us. It's about removing. That's your biggest litmus test. If you have to add something to it, it's wrong. If you're taking away, it's right. So picture HEPA, removal, sanding, grinding off, removing. It's all about removing.
So can you kind of go through the whole process of how you would start from the beginning to the end of taking care of a house that has mold in it?
Yeah. So first we want to find it, right? So we want to find it. So often we'll have a client that comes in and says, you know what? I think we had this window flood 5 years ago. And I think that's where our mold is. And we'll come in and we'll do an assessment of the house. So we come in as assessors first, we run the dogs, we come back together and say, okay, this is what we found. What sometimes happens is the dogs are turning us onto something, or we find something with a meter or something like that. That is, if this is, again, that 100% of the mold we see in your house, it moves the needle. Instead of moving the needle this much, where that window may have moved the needle and had this much cost, this thing moves the needle this much, right? It moves the needle more. That's what we want to concentrate on, is how do you move the needle? How do you reduce the overall toxin as fast as you can and as inexpensively as you can? And so we identify those areas, and then we get a game plan. Okay, these areas we're going to start with. So once we identified that, so we will identify that in the assessment. And then we'll take the measurements and videos and everything we need to go and then write an estimate on how much it would take to take care of that. We'll send the estimate over. When we come in and get that approved, when we come in to start that process, it looks like it could be the first day is all on containment, setting up a barrier so we're not poofing that room, poofing the rest of the house.
So in a house, are you doing like one room at a time? Is that what you have to do, or you're not enclosing the whole house with a big old plastic bag kind of thing, right?
And if we're doing a whole house, like we're in the process of doing a couple of those where pretty much everything is being taken out. And this is not the common. This is not common at all. But if they're taking out more than we told them they had to, but they're like, you know what? It's a house from the 60s. We're just going to redo it all anyway. But that we wouldn't even contain that house if the entire house is coming out, right? If you're going down to studs on everything. But we're going to be taking one area at a time. So let's say that it's a bathroom that flooded, a toilet overflowed, or the kids left the tub on and went. Well, that bathroom is a problem, but probably the room on the other side is, and the closet on the other side of that, and the hallway on the other side of that. So that we would contain as one area, so that we could have the whole perimeter and the whole mess that's there contained, so that we can then go as far as we need to go. And then we start removing the things, removing baseboard, removing drywall. And again, we follow, and this is another thing going back to hiring a good inspector or a good remediator. You follow water damage. You don't just follow mold, because if we go back to the Petri dish, a square inch could have 100,000 spores in it, right? So you follow water damage. And you don't necessarily want to test as you go. Like, I'm going to test this area of I see water damage on the tack strip here. I'm going to test that because it's like $100 a test. So it's like, just take it. It's probably going to be less than $100 to just go that little bit farther.
Well, and water can travel so far. Like, I remember my brother's in building, and he was trying to find a leak in the roof, and they found the leak from where they saw the water. They found the leak almost 60 feet away, because it just followed down some studs and just, so it traveled quite a ways before they actually where it was. So that can be a lot of space.
Yeah, it can. And picture water, if water's coming, let's say it's coming from the outside. Well, water comes from, and this is the foundation and exterior of the wall. Let's say it comes down the foundation and it hits the ground, the concrete in the basement. Well, then you have carpet on this side. So carpet and pad, that's harder to go through for water than following the walls behind the studs and just going, right? It's almost a river, right? In between the stud, in between the foundation wall, the stud, and then your tack strip is a great river. So often we'll have people say, hey, this room flooded, it was only this room. And then we say, well, the dogs are hitting on both of this rooms on both sides of this. Let's just pull the carpet back and just take a look. Oh yeah, this never even got addressed. So now this has more mold than the others because you dried this room, right? And most people just dry what they can see. They don't dry saying, you know what, it came out down a window and behind the window. Well, then there's insulation back there, and that's not going to let this drywall, the backside of this drywall, dry fast enough. And they're just drying the carpet over here, and they have a huge mold problem behind the wall. So we just dry, you only know what you know, right? So we just dry what we can see. We say, yeah, it's dry, the carpet's dry, and then they clean the carpet, or they just give a thumbs up and move on with their life. That's pretty common, to most people.
Well, my office was flooded. I'm right next to Cafe Rio, and they had like a lemon or something go in their trap, and so it flooded, my office, right? And when they came in to take it, they did a sample, and my wall that I shared with them had mold on the bottom like 2 feet all the way up, and that wasn't stuff that had just been there since the flood. It'd been there. They'd then gotten moisture because they didn't do like a cove or something when they first originally built their thing. So that all their water splashed into that wall, and then it would slowly. So they came in, they took out the bottom 2 feet of my whole office, kind of thing, on the sheetrock and everything.
Yep. Yeah. Did you have metal studs? Do you remember, or were they?
We have metal studs.
Oh, that's great. That helps a lot. That's harder to grow mold.
Because the wood studs, would they have had to replace all those, or how would that have worked?
Always. Sometimes you should replace them. Often we can clean them. And the problem is when the stud's on the ground and water has gone under this and multiple times. Well, that's where you have mold, right? You're going to have mold on the bottom side of this. So, in some cases, those need to be removed.
Yeah, we
But
had the
metal
metal
studs is
studs.
so much better, especially if they kind of cleaned out below them with a pressure washer type thing or a pump sprayer type thing to get that out. Yeah, so let me go back to what that looks like, right? So then we come in, we have the negative pressure, we're removing all the things that we need to. So things that are what we call hygroscopic, baseboards, carpet, pad, drywall, things like that. That's what we're removing. And we're following the water stains. So we're going as far as the water stains. We cut out all of that. Then we treat it with soapy water and start scrubbing it. And then we look at what that looks like behind it. So we've already removed most of the, the stuff that's really easy to replace. Now we have like studs, like you're saying. So can we clean those, or do those have to be removed? Are those on a load-bearing wall? Or do we have to think about that and seeing if that needs to be replaced and how to do that properly, or can we get those clean in that situation? And so then we go through and we clean all of that, and then we do what's called it's called a small particulate clean, an SPC, and that means you're taking all of the dust out of that area. So picture like if we had a glitter factory. Noah, my son, it always paints this picture. If you had a glitter factory and the factory like failed and it's just shooting glitter everywhere, and then you came in and it's got half the town covered in glitter. If you came in and took care of the glitter factory and you fixed the glitter factory, what's left is all the glitter in town, right? So a mold colony is kind of the same thing. It's kicking spores off, and if we took care of the colony or the factory of it, then now we have to go get those secondary settled spores, and those are just going to be found all throughout, whatever that area is that those spores got, landed. And so now inside that containment, we're coming in and doing that small particulate clean, so there's no dust, and we get all of those secondary settled spores. And then once we have that, then we say, okay, we're good to go. And then we tell the client to call up that third party to have them come in and give a PRV, that post-remediation verification. And so then they come in, they do the post-remediation verification, give a thumbs up, and then they're good to put it all back.
So then they're the ones so basically, if I understand what you're saying, is you don't do the fixing afterwards because you don't want to be a conflict of interest. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Right. Yep.
So you want them to hire their own contractor or whatever to come in and redo the sheetrock, it's not you saying, oh, we're going to do this because now we can do this on the back end. So you try to separate those two.
Right. And more importantly than that, we don't come in and tell you we did a good job. It'd be real easy, real convenient to say, yeah, we found it, we remediated it, and yep, we took care of it. We did a great job. We don't do that. We tell you to have a third party do that. We can give you names of people that are good. I've had third party remediation or assessors, even hygienists, people who have gone to college for this. I've had them come in and say, yep, you passed. And it had we have 5 zero tolerance molds. If you find any one of the 5 zero tolerance molds inside a containment, an area we've remediated, we failed the test, even if it's one spore. And that's something that we put on ourselves. That's not an industry standard. That's not anything. That's just, hey, we know these five spores are super important to get 100% out. So he came in, he says, yep, they passed. It came up with 60 spores. And we said, that doesn't work for us. And she's all excited. Hey, great, we passed, we can move on. And we're like, okay, one of two things happened. One, we did not clean well enough. Or two, there is still a problem in there that hasn't been addressed. And in this situation, we had a bathroom with a standalone shower and then a vanity. And that's where we knew the mold was. And what we didn't know is that the toilet before her ownership had a leak. And the toilet's on the other side of the room. And so, but that was still in our containment. And we had subfloor out on this one because it was so rotted on the side we were working on. And so we came back in and we're looking at it saying, man, everything we did looks really good. And then we start doing more investigation where we're looking under the floor about 5 feet back. There was a toilet that had a problem that had leaked down, and it was in between the floor, the floor and the ceiling downstairs that had a problem that we found and were able to take care of. Which in this case was really great because it's like, hey, what if we put all that back and then now we had to come back in and tear it out if we found it later, right? Or she doesn't get better because, shoot, she's got a big problem with one of these zero tolerance molds.
So this can be like what I'm hearing is this, I mean, it can be a massive rabbit hole, right? I mean, it can be little things all of a sudden become bigger things, right? I mean, because as you said, it travels here, it travels there. One little spore can create its own little colony. So it can be.
And also, people have lived in multiple houses. So, like, there could be multiple people that live in a house. They don't really know all the backstory of everything that could have happened. And so, like you said, there was probably a leak before. And
yeah, it can be. It's not always, and it's not. I'd say the majority of the time, it's pretty. If we know that this had a problem, we can follow this. We know what that looks like, even if it's 3 levels deep, right? From the top level to the main floor all the way to the basement, we can track that. But you're right. If you have other issues that say, we get in a lot of real estate transaction problems where there's not disclosing, people aren't disclosing what really happened, and then it's a problem. And that becomes an issue that people end up dealing with. I would never buy a flipped house without having us go through it. Like, without going through with dogs. I mean, I can't tell you how many times people are just painting over mold. Or we had a client that bought a new house, a house that was probably 10 years old. They went up, set up the washing machine upstairs. He didn't put the drain back all the way, and he flooded. And then he opens up the walls, and it's like, this is a huge problem. And it had been a huge problem. But if he didn't flood, he wouldn't have known. I have another house. We were running through a new, what looked like a totally remodeled house. We go through a bedroom, and the basement looked remodeled. We go through the bedroom, the dogs hit on the wall, and we're like, what is this? It's all new. It's new drywall, new baseboard, new carpet. That's weird. Let's work, figure that out. We pull back the carpet tack strip looks fine, and we put a hole in the wall. We take a sample, like in the hundreds of thousands of mold spores. We end up taking off the bottom portion of the wall, thinking something's happened. This is above another washing machine, and we find out that it is 2 layers deep of drywall. And these people, these flippers, instead of taking the drywall out and fixing it, they put new drywall on top of it, new baseboard, new tack strip, and they had to put the tack strip. They had to put new tack strip because most people don't. And tack strip tells a great story, but they had to they had to replace the tack strip because the wall is now farther out. So the tack strip needs
right.
And so, it was just 4 feet high of mold from a problem they've had for probably months or years. And they just threw in, and you couldn't smell it. And, like sometimes I'd walk in a room and like, something's here. I couldn't smell it. It smelled like new paint, new carpet to me. But the dogs found it, and it was like, holy cow. Now this one, they had already bought, and it was a flip. So it wasn't like they got to say something different. I did one 2 weeks ago. We went through the house. Dogs hit a wall, an exterior wall. in a bedroom away from plumbing. So we're like, weird. Let's see what that is. We pull back the carpet. We can see the carpet tack strip, and the wood is rotting. Like it's been wet many, many times. We go outside, and it's a portion where you have a wall right here and a small roof that comes down that stucco.
Oh, yeah.
Their kick-out flashing wasn't kicking it out. They had just had the roof replaced, so now it looks like it is, right? They have a new kick-out flashing there. Everything looks done right now, but before that, and that went down from their second level to their main floor, all the way down into their cold storage, which they told us they had problems because water was getting in a corner of their porch. But it wasn't. It was coming all the way from the third story or the second story all the way down into their crawl space. But again, how would you have found that? Like I walked through there, everything looks great, but the dog's nose is what found that in that case.
So, Mike, can you tell us where can people find you? And I know that they're probably so curious about, okay, I need to look at mold now and get my house figured out. Where can they find you at?
Yeah, so vitalutah.com is probably the best place to find us. That's our website that has links to our social media. Chap and Ren have a face or a social media of their own that you can kind of see what a dog looks like when they're out searching. And but vitalutah.com is probably the best place to reach out to us.
And what is like just to do an average home inspection? Is there like a basic fee that you have, or is there too many variables for that?
Yeah, so it starts at $1,200, and that's for up to 2,000 square feet. And then the difference between that and everyone else out there with a dog is you get a mold assessor going through, and we will find mold the dog doesn't find every single time. And unless it's a brand new house that has no mold, right? But if there's mold in the house, we will find mold the dog doesn't find. Then we run the dog, and then we give you that low-hanging fruit. Like, here is how to reduce this on your own. So we give you videos on that. Here is how to reduce your mold down in your house. This is how to actually do the windows, do the toilets, what to clean with. We give you an Amazon list that is just for your convenience. We don't get anything from it, but it says, okay, in these videos, we're talking about how to do this. And these are all the things we would use, and here they are on Amazon, so you can just find it quick, right? Or if you don't shop Amazon, this is what they look like. Go find it somewhere else. And then we also give you videos on showing you how to do a small particulate clean. And our inspection also comes with 3 samples. So if we come in, and this is like we did a house up in Midway, and our dogs hit on a closet, and a finished closet. Luckily it was empty, like all the things were out. This is a second home of theirs, and it's hitting on the closet. We pull back the carpet to see why, if there's anything there. We're like, oh, this is the cold storage from below their porch. We open it up, looks fine, but the dogs are hitting on it. We put a hole in it. We take a sample, and it comes back with like 6,000 Aspergillus penicillium type molds. Well, that's concerning. We can't see anything down there. And it's what is in the wall why is there mold in the wall? We wouldn't have found that, and we could have written it off as, this is just a closet, maybe you have stacked odor in it. But by having those 3 samples, one of those samples went to that and showed what a problem we had there, and then we were able to take care of it. So you get 3 samples with that. So that's what it looks like, and then it goes up from there depending on how big your house is.
I think this is something that we all need to look at, and I think people are going to be excited about learning more about this. And not many people use dogs to be able to go to the next step, and that's what really distinguishes you from actually going and getting a kit at Lowe's or Home Depot or something like that will tell you. But thank you, Mike, for being on today, and we appreciate you opening up our eyes to be able to, what are the importance of getting this mold out of our life, because I know that it can affect so many different problems that we have within the natural health realm that I don't even think that a lot of people even realize. So thank you for being on today and sharing your expertise with us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Your health journey is between you and your healthcare providers.
So remember, this podcast is for educational purposes only.
To stay up to date, visit us at BeHealthyUtah.com.
And please subscribe to our newsletter where we give additional health information, health tips, as well as recipes.
Thank you to our 2026 sponsors.
We truly could not do this without them.